You're listening to Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We're coming to you from the unceded traditional territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations around Vancouver, BC. I'm your host, Bernadine Fox, and this is the show that dares to change how we think about mental health. Welcome to Rethreading Madness.
When I've never been further from knowing what the hell I'm gonna do, when I can't seem to find my way under or over or through.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Randy Tate. I've interviewed Randy once before. Today he's coming to talk with us about a recent storytelling event he participated in. Randy, can you tell folks a little bit about who you are?
Okay, my name is Randy Tate. My Indigenous name is Emma Otson, and it translates from my language to English means good spirit or good heart. My mother gave me that name. I belong to the house of the fireweed and the killer whale. And I've been an artist for most of my life. And I live in the lower mainland of Vancouver, beautiful Vancouver. And I've been around the city, oh God, yeah, forever. But I love the city. I go home once in a while to go visit family up in the Nisga'a and the Gitxsan territory. And I've been on my healing journey for almost 22 years, free of alcohol and drugs.
That's wonderful.
Oh my God, I took my life back, my power, and I'm honoring the gift of life in a good, positive way. I love life today. I work on my artwork on a regular basis, and I also do ceremonies, cleansing ceremonies for people in addictions, people in traumas, people in hospitals. I get calls, to help these people on their journey, and especially people who are ready to go to the spirit world. And I used to get calls for a while there to go to any of the hospitals in the lower mainland, and up in Surrey, Burnaby, and New West, North Vancouver. And the hospitals used to call me at one time. It'd be nice if they called me again to do what I do, what I enjoy doing, is helping others, giving back.
You recently did a talk at the Connection Salon, which is a part of Mad Pride here. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did and what you talked about?
Okay, I talked about residential school, about my father being in residential school when he was just a young child. And he was in there for many, many years. And then he finally got out when he was in his late teens. And, they didn't treat him very well in there. He was messed up, and, he met my mother and they got married and had 5 children. And, it was sad to see him the way he was, because the way he raised us. And me growing up, being resentful towards my parents growing up, because I didn't know he was in residential school until back in 1990 when I sobered up. I found out all about residential school, educated myself on it, and now I understood why my father was the way he was. And I come to terms with it. I had to surrender so I can be at peace with myself and let the resentments go of my parents. Yes. And, my father is just turned 94, and my mother is going to be 93 in September.
Wow.
Yes, and you know what? I after I forgave them, you know, things changed for the better.
How so?
Yeah, I'm happy with my life. I'm sober. I don't have to hang on to trauma anymore. I don't have to hang on to resentments and abandonment and all the mixed emotions that come up. I'll tell you a story of what I shared. It's a metaphor that I follow. I follow it whenever I need to. Here's this young man myself. I'm paddling upstream in my canoe, and there's all this debris coming down in the river. And I'm starting to be really angry, tired, fatigued, and mixed emotions are coming up. I'm really hurting inside. My canoe's filling up full of tears, so I'm really struggling. And the elder said to me, "What do you do when this is happening?" I said, "I will jump overboard out of the canoe and swim to shore." He said, "No, you won't. If you do, you'll get knocked out by the debris coming down and you'll drown. So what you need to do is pull your canoe over onto dry land and then build a fire, keep warm, drink lots of water, liquids, teas, eat food, and talk about your pain. Talk about it. Maybe you want to rest for a month, 6 months, a year, 2 or 3 or 4 years, however long it takes you. When you talk about that pain and releasing it a little at a time. And you will listen to your heart. Your heart will tell you when it's time to get in your canoe. And I listened to my heart. And when I climbed back into my canoe, the canoe was light. There was no more tears in the canoe, no more debris coming down the river. So here I was paddling and taking my time and enjoying the fresh air of the sunlight and paddling upstream in my canoe. And I could see where I want to get to in life. So I took my time doing this. And then whenever I felt the same emotions or fatigue, tiredness, angry, or mixed emotions coming up, I'd repeat the process, pull my canoe over and rest and talk about it and eat and drink lots of water, lots of teas. And so this is what I follow. And then the storm that was over me right now, the dark cloud that was over me in the storm, it was clearing a path for me to see where I wanted to get to in life. And I made sure I have that self-awareness of my attitudes and behaviors and my fears and my doubts. You know, and you know, I had to really look at this, and I had to work on my childhood traumas and my addictions. Go to meetings, go to a 12-step meeting, so I can feel good about myself. Here's something I need to hear, that I'm not alone, and take care of that inner child. And I share that with people. And there's one thing I was told by my counselor many years ago, back in 1990. She gave me a teddy bear. I said, "What's this for?" "You got to carry it around." And I said, "I don't want to carry this thing around." It was my ego. That's another thing. The ego gets in the way of your well-being. And says, "No, you got to carry this around for 6 weeks."
Oh
So
my God.
what? And of course, my pride got in the way. Hell no, I ain't doing this. So you have to, if you want to pass this program you're in. And so I carried it around. I took it to the bathroom, took it to the bathtub, I took it to meals, I took it to bed with me, I took it for walks wherever I went. And whenever that inner child felt threatened, I would have that inner child and hold it in my arms and say, nothing is going to hurt you. Nothing's going to harm you. You are safe. That's what I would speak to that little teddy bear, to talking to my inner child. Because when I was in relationships, when I was younger, 19, 20 years old and so on, here's this inner child taking care of the adult in relationships. And then I would meet someone with the same problems. There's a woman who's this inner child, female body, taking care of the female adult.
Right.
And they clashed. all the trust, all the issues came up to the surface. All the anger and the resentments and the abandonment and the jealousy, everything came up to the surface when I was in relationships with different women. And after identifying this, I thought, I can't do this anymore. I got to sober up. Even when I was sober, I did this. I had to really work on it. I had to work on that inner child, deal with that inner child who's hurting from abandonment. And I was traumatized at the age of 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I started seeing spirits at that age. And and I carried some of my positive memories with me with my granny, back in the day, singing to me in her language. I remember when I was a newborn, she'd be singing to me, and I remember that song. I remember the receiving blanket that she wrapped around me, and the safety pin for the old cloth diaper days. I remember that. And I bought a safety pin to remind me of that, of my inner child when I was that baby. Yeah, because we were all born pure and innocent, right? And somewhere along the line, we got traumatized by some negative energy. Growing up, and we carried that. I carried that with me wherever I went. And
the trauma or the safety pin and the teddy bear?
Everything.
Everything.
Yes. I carry that safety pin. I put it on my pants or hang it around my neck, the safety pin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it reminds me of my granny, and I had good memories too when I was little. I went to elementary school in Prince Rupert, Port Edward, BC, just outside of Rupert. And it was good, but back then the teachers were mean, just like residential school.
Mm-hmm.
We got hit with a pointer stick, we got hit with a yardstick, we got hit with whatever, we got spit on, we got slapped on the head. We were made to pee our pants when we were little kids in school. If we needed to go and the teachers were very strict, no, you can't go. And then when we wet our pants in school, we were sent home that I wasn't listening, which wasn't true. The teachers made up stories when we were little.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I remember that. I carry that for over 40 something years, and I talked about it when I went to a treatment center. Yeah, about how abused we got, either at home. We got hit with a wooden spoon with a belt. But my mother wouldn't do that. It was my father that was doing that, because this is what happened to him. He got abused in there, and it was sad. I've seen the whip marks on his back. It looked like a freeways, and it was sad. I remember when I heard someone crying in our house. So I snuck upstairs, and here I heard my father crying. He had his head on my mother's lap, and my mother was just, stroking him on the back of the head, and I saw all these scars on his back. Yeah. So I didn't know what that meant with all those scars. And then I found out, now I know how he got those scars is from residential school and all the abuse, the abandonment. They were taken from their community.
They terrified him.
Oh yeah, they were taken from their communities. From our villages. It was quite sad by what that happened. So I carry this trauma with me. Witnessing the family violence, in the household. And then we carry that with us in adulthood, and we acted out like our parents did, and we practiced what they taught us. So you have to break that cycle.
Until you break the cycle, and it sounds like you have broken that cycle.
Yes. And I had two beautiful daughters. One's in the spirit world. She overdosed on cocaine in Prince George. And I got a daughter that's still alive. She lives in Hazelton, BC, and works up there. And she's happy. She's doing good. She's raising a foster child. I thought is awesome.
That's cool.
And I have a bunch of grandchildren and great grandchildren.
Wow.
Yeah. So
It's fun
Never
being
thought
a
I would live
grandparent.
this long, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
it's the hard part about living this long is that sometimes you didn't ever plan for it, and you have to kind of figure out what you're going to do with it, which isn't
Yeah.
a bad thing,
No,
because you get to a place where you're not hung up with some of all the social norms that you were before, and you really can be free just to find
yes.
your own path and stay on that. So,
Yeah, it's important that you recognize and identify your egos and your attitudes and your behaviors, and when you surrender the egos and the attitudes and the behaviors. But you got to do that on a daily basis,
mhm.
and where it becomes the norm. Doing good things for yourself and others around you, giving
So
back.
what do you do, Randy? I mean, you talk about the canoe, and certainly all that trauma is a part of what's coming down that river at you and falling in the canoe. And so the elder told you to go to shore, find a dry
Yes,
spot, make a fire, eat, drink water, take care of yourself.
yes, sing and scream and
Sing and
laugh.
scream.
Yeah, sing and
I
scream
like
and
I like
laugh.
that. Well, every time I see you, I smile. So, and we run into each other quite often, actually.
Yeah.
So how else do you take care of yourself? You do sweats. I know you do sweats.
I'm a firekeeper. My friend,
Hmm.
when he comes up from Washington State, my brother Terrence, and childhood friend of mine, and I would take care of the wood, chop the wood, take care of the grandfathers, heat up the grandfathers, and keep the grounds clean and the lodge clean. It's like cleaning house. Same thing, right?
Hmm.
You make sure everybody's comfortable, and the man that's going to take care of you, of the household, the shaman, the medicine man, and I do cleansing ceremonies for people too on the side. I go to
Hmm.
12-step meetings. I hang out with live music venues. I got a lot of friends in the music industry, and a lot of groupies in the music industry. Positive people that I hang out with. Music is really good for the body, mind, and spirit.
Oh, it
Really good for
is.
the soul.
It
It
is.
uplifts your heart in a good way when you're feeling down. I do a cleansing ceremony every morning. I do my morning prayer, and then I after I have a hot shower, then I turn the cold shower on and I pray while I'm in there, and it shocks the hell out of you, right? The cold water,
I'm
and it's
sorry if that sounds like a little bit of torture to me. So
well, it
you're
feels
praying in the
good.
shower with freezing cold water
Yes,
coming.
and it feels good, and I feel good after the shower, and then my routine is walking my little dog Shredder,
Hmm.
and then going to work on my art pieces or going to work where I'm needed. I do contract work all over the place.
Right.
Yeah, and at night when I go to bed, I lay in bed and I pray while I'm there. I pray in bed that give me the strength to continue on with my life and protect me in a good way and watch over me and may have good healthy dreams. Yes, and I say thank you all my relations, and I go to sleep. And
Well,
first, same thing when I get up in the morning, I give thanks, for the breath of life. It's a routine I've been doing for 7 days a week, and way before I even sobered up. Because
wow.
the hot summer, when I was having cold showers, like 4 or 5 a day, when we had the heat waves, and for
Hmm.
many years I did this. I said, "Hey, this reminds me of our ancestors. This is what they did before we had running water. We went to the rivers, the lakes, the streams, the waterfalls."
True.
And so I thought, I'm going to continue what I'm doing, and I love it.
Well,
Don't miss a day.
there is this school of thought that cold water and going in the river or going in something like the ocean even will reset your. I'm saying this all wrong. I'm pretty sure as people are going to be calling in saying that's not what it does, um, but it has something to do with your Vegas or vagal,
What's a
your vagus nerve.
Oh yeah. Well, like I say, when it shocks you, it shocks the depression. It shocks that inner child too from
Right,
trauma.
right.
It shocks you on. everything, your nerves, your liver, your kidneys,
Mm.
your ears, your eyes, it water's the best healing liquid there is on Mother Earth. That's why
Mm.
I'm being so grateful for this. Without water, we would all perish.
Mm-hmm.
We
We
need
would.
water to live, to survive.
And so the water becomes what for you then?
Very sacred and spiritual for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cleansing.
So even the shower for
Yes,
you is a
yes,
sacred
yeah,
spiritual
yeah.
event.
If I'm out in the forest, I will look for a river or lake or stream. I'll go there and get a cedar branch and brush myself down with this.
Mm-hmm.
The plant is very sacred. The cedar,
Mm-hmm.
cedar bulb is really sacred to our people. We use it for everything. We use it for medicines.
It
For
is
teas.
medicine.
It is.
Yes.
Everything on Mother Earth is a spirit, has a spirit, and they're all spirits, and they all have healing properties in it. All the plants.
Yes. Yes. I think I know that. Um,
Hmm.
I probably shouldn't know that as a white person, but um, anyway,
Well, your people practice medicines too. Every nation on Mother Earth practice
it's
medicines.
true. That is true.
Yeah, we're you know, we're got to get past the segregation thing, right?
In
People
what way?
segregating, people putting themselves in little corners.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Like saying I'm a white person?
Yeah.
Ah.
We acknowledge the four races on Mother Earth and the four directions. We call them our brothers and sisters from the
Mm-hmm.
four races on Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we
You
don't,
know, so
yeah.
just to be clear, the reason I do that is because I'm often mistaken for Native, and that feels wrong to pretend that in any way, even just accepting somebody else's misunderstanding. But the other part of it is, and my ex, who's Native, Sutana, often gets mad at me for exactly the same thing you just did. Like,
Mm.
stop saying that.
Yeah.
But for me, it is about anti-racism. It is about
Yes.
making sure that I recognize that as a white person, there are places and things that aren't mine.
Yes.
And I can have a tendency to just walk into anything and anywhere and just,
Hmm.
and not that I'm trying to be rude or anything. I'm curious, and
Yes.
so that's me trying to be
Yeah.
respectful. Um,
Understandable. Yeah, I understand. Like our people are very giving and kind, and
mhm.
we're stewards of the land. We take care of Mother Earth. And I notice a lot of non-indigenous people are kind of like adopting our ways
Mhm.
of sweat lodge ceremonies, cleansing ceremonies, you know, uh, whatever it is out there. I notice people are adopting some of our ways of life because we live a spiritual way of life,
Yes.
and they're attracted to that, and that's okay. It's good if they want to do that. That's great. I love it when people different nationalities, not only whites, like South Asians and Asian people and
Mhm.
African. Our ways are pretty similar to the Africans and the Asians and the South Asians and the white people. People cleanse themselves from different nations,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah, from all four corners of Mother Earth. As Indigenous people, we struggle with the alcohol and the drugs and the family dynamics, like the family household.
Mhm.
We bring that wherever we go, our traumas. And I keep putting tobacco down and praying that our people will learn how to live a good, healthy life and go back to their roots, practice their ceremonies, practice their ways of life back in the day, dancing and having fun, with their families, going out to picnics, going out to dinners together, having dinner together, going to movies. I remember when I was a child, when we were kids, we used to sit around the radio and listen to The Dark Shadow or something that
Mm.
was playing. I remember that's all we had in our household when we were little. And my mom and dad and my younger brother, we would sit around and listen to the radio. And we didn't have TV back in those days.
No.
You know, we sat around and listened to the radio.
Well, that's not a bad thing. And there was recently at the radio station somebody that was actually recreating that they would come in and do, a theater piece for the radio. I don't know whether or not it's still happening. I should check that. Randy, thank you for coming and chatting with me about all this.
You're welcome, my friend.
And I hope to see you around soon. And
yes.
And I hope that at some point we can have you back on and talk some more. So
of course. And I'm sending you prayers for that thing you're going through.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And may you get a good night's rest.
I need that.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, Randy.
Oh, you're welcome, my friend. All the best to you.
Thank you. And you. And we'll be right back, folks.
Tanuyap. Kuiget Yuans Kuyansna. Hi, everybody. My name is Kuiget Yuans. I'm a member of the Squamish Nation and the Yagalanas clan of the Haida Nation. You're listening to Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. We live, work, play, and broadcast from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
Street lights are bleeding through the cracks in the blind, and you're staring at the ceiling, trying to untangle your mind. The clock on the wall is the loudest thing in the room, and it feels like the walls are closing in on you too. I know how the quiet can start to scream. I know how you're trapped inside of a waking dream. Your hands are shaking, you're counting the floorboards tonight, just praying for a flicker, just a little bit of light. You carry a mountain that nobody else can see, and you're smiling for the cameras, pretending to be free. But I see the shadow that's hiding behind your eyes, and I hear the truth underneath all of your beautiful eyes. So this is a song for anyone in pain, for anyone standing out alone in the pouring rain. When the weight of the world is too heavy to hold, and your heart's turning heavy and your blood's running cold, you don't have to be brave, you don't have to be strong, you don't have to pretend that you belonged all along. Just cry if you need to, let the tears start to fall. Yeah, this is a song for the broken, a song for us all. You remember the days when your chest didn't ache, before every single promise that they made started to break. Now you're walking through the crowds where you're completely alone, like a ghost in a city that you used to call home. They tell you it's easy, they tell you just breathe, but they don't see the gravity pulling at your sleeve. It's a heavy kind of sadness that settles in the bone, and it makes you feel like you're entirely on your own. You've been fighting a war that has no end in sight, you're waking up in the morning just to dread the night, and you're tired. Oh God, I know that you're tired of trying to stoke a flame when you've run out of fire. Yeah, this is a song for anyone in pain, for anyone standing out alone in the pouring rain. When the weight of the world for the broken, a song for us all. So let the rain fall down on your face. You don't have to win every single race. The room is getting quiet again. The storm is slowing down, my friend. You're not alone in the dark tonight. We're just waiting for the morning light. Yeah, we're just waiting for the light.
You're listening to Rethreading Madness on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM. I'm Bernadine Fox, and today I have the pleasure of having Matthew Jackman come and speak with us again here on Rethreading Madness. Matthew is not a stranger to this program. He has been interviewed before, and I'm so glad to have him back. He's been doing some research that I really want him to talk about. I heard a little bit of the preliminary findings at a conference online a few weeks ago. So Matthew is an international MAD activist. He's a doctoral researcher undertaking a PhD on international MAD movements at the University of Sydney in Australia. But these days he is literally all over the globe. I can't keep up with him. He's so many places. Their PhD project investigates the contemporary activism and future direction of the consumer user, psychiatric survivor, ex-patient and inmate, and the MAD and psychosocial disability movements happening around the issue of being MAD. So welcome, Matthew. So glad to have you back. Is there anything you would change about what I just said?
No, I think you really nicely covered. I really appreciate you going into the different identities and different framings of how people undertake their resistance and advocacy work in their different cultural and structural contexts. So it's wonderful to be back, and always a privilege to be in conversation with you.
Thank you. I feel exactly the same way. I actually come to this whole movement from the perspective of being a mental health consumer, which is not always a word I like. But also my activism is mostly about therapy abuse and what people have experienced as survivors of exploitation. And that, of course, led me into understanding more about the psychiatric survivors out there. And really I'm getting a sense that it's all connected. There are so many ways that all of us on that list are connected. And of course, the common denominator is the mental health industry and how it is actually impacting on people. You've been doing some critical qualitative research, and I just was hoping that, I know it's preliminary, but could you tell us some of what you found?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I should start with how I came to the topic myself, and I identify as a mad person myself in the reclaimed cultural and political sense, given that mad has been used historically in a pejorative and oppressive way to people that have been labelled with a mental illness, and have grown up in the context of a lot of distress and madness with my mother and my siblings, and then myself being psychiatrized in the system, and had some helpful and supportive experiences, of course, but many harmful experiences that really led me to thinking and conceptualizing of myself as a survivor and a mad person, which is an identity that's outside of the system rather than consumer or survivor, which assumes that you have an identity in relationship to the system that you've been accessing. Through my own experiences and sort of politicization or radicalization, I got involved in a lot of international advocacy and activism in human rights and social justice and peer-led approaches to mental health on the back of a mad episode or an extreme or altered state, which took me to the World Health Organization and took me to South Africa about a decade ago, where the Global Mental Health Peer Network was launched and was inaugurated as the Western Pacific Regional representative. So through that process and about 7 years of international policy work around human rights and mental health and disability inclusion, I came across an opportunity for a PhD to continue that work, to continue MAD activism work and be resourced materially and financially to do that. And that's sort of where I'm at today. So I really come to the research as someone that's an active participant, someone that's an insider, outsider researcher, and had the opportunity to interview and many of whom I consider friends, many of whom are friends of friends, many of whom are, comrades and colleagues, basically to understand what does, lived experience-led advocacy and activism mean for people in their local cultural and structural context, as there are many different identities, many different movements and sub-movements that make up and comprise of the MAD movements. So I use that term plurally, and obviously, as I mentioned, use that term intentionally, even though it's not reflective of everyone's identity and or terminology depending on their context. So I really wanted to document particularly the global majority and global south, or what are known as low and middle resource settings, and to centre perspectives, particularly around psychosocial disability activism in those contexts, where the UN Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disability is a key human rights tool and instrument for people to advocate around, presumption of legal capacity, the right to community inclusion, and to not be institutionalised, alongside other developmental issues of, poverty, housing, education, employment, as many of the movements historically, the consumer, survivor, ex-patient, inmate movements have been documented in the North American and Western European context. So I was quite interested in the contemporary, or since millennia, the current context, the contemporary context, and to hear from people actively participating in those movements in their countries, regions, and or internationally.
And have you found anything that is sort of common throughout the globe?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bernadine, because I think, of course, there are differences in identities, in language, in issues. But the common thread, of course, is that mad people, or people with lived experience around the world that have been labelled with a mental illness, not just by psychiatry, but maybe in spaces or places where psychiatry doesn't exist. So it might be by family, by community, by society, labelled or deemed socially mad or culturally mad. And in most instances, there are, a stigma, discrimination, and Sanism towards those folks. So people are viewed as less than, are viewed as less than human or dehumanized, and as a consequence, are subject to interventions, quote unquote treatments, that essentially violate the person's human rights. So there's that correlation between, sanism, dehumanization, and then people's rights being violated because they're deemed less than human and deemed that, in their best interests require interventions that are violent and harmful. And as you said at the beginning, that can not just be institutionalization, but it can be therapy, and other social practices such as discrimination in their employment, or being even detained by family or community in the home, because they don't know what to do with their loved ones. So yeah, I think the common threads are around sanism and psychiatric oppression, and or discrimination, and people violating the fundamental dignity, autonomy, choice, and self-determination of people deemed mad, either by the system or by family, community, and society.
Yeah, and if I want to just bring that all back down to the whole issue of therapy, abuse, and exploitation, which is only a small portion of this, but what we're finding is that there are abusive therapists who, in exploiting their clients, are in fact saying, oh, I have to have this sexual contact with you as part of your treatment. And so it really sort of elevates the idea of, if you're looking at the issue of the kinds of things that psychiatric survivors talk about happening in psych institution, and asylums, or even hospital settings, where treatment is not, it's almost on the level of torture. And I think I can say that because that has been documented by organizations out there. It goes all the way down to the Joe Blow psychiatrist in his private practice calling the same kinds of things as treatment. So I really want to say that you have done so much to promote the recognition of the importance of lived experience in talking about mental health and where it's going, and what it should be doing. So often the stakeholders in mental health never include the person with mental health challenges or the person that is going to be the one supposedly being helped by an institution. So,
Yeah.
so I'm getting into politics that may or may not be something that is comfortable for you. I don't know. Is it comfortable for you, Matthew, that I talk about politics?
Well, mad movements central around mad politics and mad analysis. So I think all of the folks that I have interviewed come to this work because of a level of politicization. So,
Right.
one of the preliminary findings is how does someone go from, deemed mentally ill or mad? How do they go from their lived experience to politicizing and becoming involved in collective organizing or collective resistance? So, in a way, politicization is actually really central to mad movements, as many folks live with, have a lived experience, but don't necessarily get involved in political collective organizing. So it's interesting to know what events or what experiences result in someone going from having lived experience and service use or harm from service use and or family and community to I'm going to be part of this collective broader rights and human difference and diversity movement.
And what did you find? What was it that made that change for people?
I think for many folks, depending on the resource setting, it's usually a harms by the system and realizing that there are systematic and systemic problems of dehumanization and violence by the service system itself and by the psychiatric paradigm, but also beyond that, just in society more broadly. That, as mentioned before, that madness is deemed systemically a pathology by psychiatry and the psychiatric paradigm. Which then results in that process of dehumanization, which then results in, a permission almost to discriminate and act in people's, quote unquote, best interests. So I think most people have either been harmed by the system and or for family and community as a result of this label of madness and or mental illness. And that has led them to, and that also that consciousness raising and awareness that this is broader than an individual or one particular mental health system issue, that it's actually a collective and global phenomenon is what really brings people into these more, national, regional and transnational, international movements.
So in your research, if I was to take you back there, and I may have already asked this question kind of, but I'm not sure I got the answer. What is it that you're finding? What is the primary thing that you're finding so far?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that along with some of the issues that I've discussed around common threads of human rights violations and oppression from either the system and or family and community, there are also issues of barriers around identity politics. So as you mentioned at the beginning, there are many different identities that people come to these mad movements with. And sometimes these identity politics can result in differences in how they view the MAD movement's mission and values and goals. So there are people that are more reformist or maybe have had some level of help from the system from within. Yeah, so some of the common issues within MAD movements are that there are a variety of identities that people identify with, and a variety of values and politics, goals, issues that are ascribed to some of those identities. So as you mentioned at the beginning, there's consumers or service users, which traditionally have been somewhat helped by the system. So there's a level of acknowledging that there are some harms, but that the system as it currently stands is working to some extent, but requires more reform from within. So, that might look like alternatives to coercion within the system. That might look like more funding for mental health systems and for more professionals and more peers within the system. But then there are those that have been more harmed by the system that might identify as psychiatric survivors or ex-patients, inmates, they're more historical terms around institutionalization. And then there's, of course, mad folks, which is an identity outside of the system. And often they hold a much more abolitionist approach to the system, and don't think that reform within the current system as it exists, which is largely a carceral system built on, prisons and prison logic, those systems actually need to be dismantled for alternative systems in the community. So there's certainly often a bit of a dialect or dichotomy between reform versus abolition, which I think is a bit of a false dichotomy, because I think abolition is also the right kinds of reform and moving in a direction of abolition. And then, mad folks often also hold a broader lens on mad politics and analysis than just the system itself, and look at madness in society rather than just madness as policed by psychiatry. And then there's psychosocial disability, which is more a term used in lower middle resource settings, where issues of disability, inclusion and rights, and developmental issues, around poverty, around housing, employment, education, just access to basic things like food, water, shelter, are really the primary issues. And so people obviously organise around identities that are related to their context, but also related to their experiences of the system and or society as a mad person.
Right. So the research that you're doing, what do you feel it would change, if it does, our current understanding about mental health when we put up the idea of the MAD movement and the education that you're creating around that? How will it change the mainstream idea of mental health, or will it?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question, and one that I'm always thinking about, because of course research, particularly within mad studies and mad politics, really at the end of the day needs to be led by those most impacted, have strong disability justice values. So for me, research really needs to be a tool for social change and a tool for redressing those issues of rights violations and psychiatric oppression. So I think this particular study, from what I know, is relatively seminal in the sense of an international research project interviewing 44 folks from around the world in a variety of cultural and structural contexts. So even just documenting that hopefully as a book as it stands alone will be important in visibilizing the movements. So even just going back to step one, mad movements are often not very well known amongst other more prominent social movements such as feminism or queer and trans movements, civil rights movements, even though mad movements intersect with all those movements, which is an important finding as well around cross-solidarity, movement building and bridging and organising. The first step is also visibilising that these movements exist and that resistance occurs in these contexts. Obviously, my hopes are that it brings about and accelerates conversations around madness not being a pathology, an illness, disorder, disease, and that madness, at least for me and for many people, is a human difference and diversity, and hopefully that would lead to a more compassionate, understanding, empathic response to madness rather than the current psychiatric violence that we see towards mad people who are given this pathologizing and dehumanizing label or labels. So there's some of my hopes, as well as collectivizing and bringing together these stories as also a tool for people to bring community. One issue is that people feel like there's not a lot of material or physical community in mad movements. So I'm hoping that this is a site and space to bring people together, to also transnationally or internationally help and support each other with a community of activists that are doing similar work in different contexts. So some of also bringing together activists, also bringing together disparate movements in a way that can further enhance collectivizing.
Yes, I agree with that. Well, thank you, Matthew. I so love our conversations. I can't wait to have more of them. And when you're finished this research, I hope that you will come back and let us know exactly what you have come up with. So.
Thanks so much, Bernadine. And always a pleasure. And look forward to keeping you updated and informed. And I appreciate you also, doing the work in disseminating too, because this is an important part of it, is also disseminating and ensuring that it's accessible to our communities as well.
Yeah, it's very important to make sure that people get information. And so often, I mean, one of the reasons I started doing this is because getting people information when there was a lot of gatekeeping going on. So you couldn't really talk to other mental health consumers unless you were in some kind of organization, because they didn't want us talking to each other. Like somehow if we were talking to each other, we would cause mayhem or chaos or something else that they couldn't quite control. So this radio program comes out of directly wanting to ensure that mental health consumers, in whatever capacity they were in, had access to information that was not gatekept by the mental health industry. So that's why we're here.
Amazing.
Thank you. So are you. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Great. Thanks, Bernadine.
Thank you, Matthew. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hey, this is Mark Kiliansky from Golden Shoals. You know, in a world where things are constantly fed to us through a screen, through an algorithm, independent radio offers music and playlists made by friends, neighbors, and humans. I love it so much, and I really want everybody to continue to enjoy that in these modern times. Forget Spotify, forget YouTube. Listen to Co-op Radio, 100.5 FM and coopradio.org.
I've been through storms that shook my soul, lost in the dark, nowhere to go. I've carried doubts, I've felt the weight of every time I walked away. But deep inside there's still a fire, a spark of hope that won't expire. No matter what, no matter how, I choose to rise, I choose right now. I won't break, I won't bend, this is not how my story ends. I will fight for me, stand up strong, I will rise even when it all feels wrong. Every tear, every scar, every fear inside my heart, they won't define the soul in me. I will fight for me, I will believe, I will believe. I've given love but lost my own. I've tried so hard to not feel alone, but I am worth the love I give. I am here, I'm meant to live. The road is long, the climb is steep, but I refuse to let fear keep me from the life that I deserve. Every step I'll find my worth. I won't break, I won't bend, this is not how my story ends. I will fight for me, stand up strong, I will rise even when it all feels wrong. Every tear, every scar, every fear inside my heart, they won't define the soul in me. I will fight for me, I will believe. No more running, no more hiding. I am done with all the silence. I am worthy, I am free. This is my time. I will fight for me, I will fight for me. Stand up strong, I will rise even when it all feels wrong. Every tear, every scar, every fear inside my heart, they won't define the soul in me. I will fight for me, I will believe. I will fight, I will believe. This is my time, I will fight for me.
Hey folks, it's Steve Ferguson, your 21st Century Schizoid Man, here to invite you to join me on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. for your weekly dose of progressive and experimental rock. I get crazy guest callers, I fight the turntable, and I dig up the most obscure music from this century and last. I've got prog metal, art rock, math rock, fusion jazz, and psychedelia, all packed into my weekly hour. You want it? I've got it. Just name it, I'll play it. That's Prog Rock Alley on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. 100.5 FM, CFRO, Vancouver's Co-op Radio. See you there.
And that's our show. My thanks to Randy Tate for sharing his story about the ways in which we need to rest and nourish ourselves along the way in our journey through life, and to Matthew Jackman for sharing with us the results that are coming through his research on mad experiences. We had some issues with sound today and appreciate your patience as we strive to fix the issues on this end. Music today was by Sherry Ulrich, Tom O'Dell, and Fearless Soul. And my thanks goes out to you for joining us today. Stay safe out there. You've just listened to Rethreading Madness, where we dare to change how we think about mental health. We air live on Vancouver Co-op Radio, CFRO 100.5 FM, every Tuesday at 5 p.m. or online at coopradio.org. If you have questions or feedback about this program, or want to share your story, or have something to say to us, we want to hear from you. You can reach us by email, rethreadingmadness@coopradio.org. This is Bernadine Fox. We'll be back next week. Until then.
When I've never been further from knowing what the hell I'm gonna do, when I can't seem to find my way under or over or through, just when I'm ready to give up the fight, there you are when we turn out the lights, and it's alright, it's alright, don't you worry, it'll be alright. Why do I always believe it when you tell me everything's gonna be alright? Yeah. Why don't I wonder how you know? Well, surely you don't have all of the facts. You could be just making it up. Why don't I ever think of that? It's some kind of magic in the words that you breathe, saying, baby, take it from me. It's alright, it's alright, don't you worry, it'll be alright. Why do I always believe it when you tell me everything's gonna be alright? Everything's gonna be alright. With anyone else, it's such a cliche, just words people say to be nice. Or someone